products, in this case solar panels, manufacturing those in Asia is relocating to Albuquerque, New Mexico. It's the first solar panel manufacturer to come back to America. And it is because exclusively, pretty much, of the mayor of Albuquerque. No, I'm just kidding. It's all because of the Inflation Reduction Act. You know, this company's Maxion, so this is something we announced a couple of months ago. And fortunately, actually, when the president was visiting, so it was a wonderful time where we could say, like, look, here is what is actually happening. And as the leadership at Maxion has said many times, the financial incentives that hit companies both to relocate and then to produce domestically are powerful enough. It really moves the needle. And so for us, it has to do with our available sunshine and our intermodal transportation, also the fact that we have land available and a host of other sort of local reasons why we were able to land Maxion. But to put a sort of dollar number on it, it's $1.7 billion. It's about 2,000 jobs. It's forecasted to increase the size of our city by 15% in 10 years.
Wow.
That's how big an impact this program is having on little old Albuquerque, New Mexico. So we are very grateful to the administration for this. And for us, it literally is going to be the reason why 1 out of 6 kids in Albuquerque stay in Albuquerque. And then mathematically, it's going to bring an additional new person to our city. So it's a wonderful ray of hope for the Duke City. Now, I think with that, it's I think in many ways just one example of all sorts of things that our first guest speaker has been working on in different ways. So I want to introduce Lael Brainard. She is a distinguished individual on many fronts, but I'll mention a few things about her background. She's taught at MIT. Of course, she served as the Undersecretary of International Affairs at Treasury, and also a member of the Federal Reserve Board from 2014, and then vice chair most recently, and now serves as the director of the White House National Economic Council. And we welcome you so much, and we'd love to hear your take on the economy and anything else that would be helpful to the city as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Just hold it down. Okay, excellent. Well, I'm delighted to be here with all of you, and thank you for that excellent introduction. I think I could just stop here because you did such a great job of showing how our agenda is really making a difference in your cities and supporting your efforts to revitalize in some cases or continue economic development in your communities. I'll just start at the very kind of zoomed out level and then talk a little bit about all the policies that we are doing and the incentives to try to get investment at the local level all across the country. But at the macro level, you know, if you think about this conference this time last year, there was just a huge amount of forecasters using the recession word. You know, everybody was gloom and doom, there was going to be a recession. What is remarkable is just how well our economy is doing, and I hear this in particular from investors from around the world. This is the place to invest right now here in the U.S. because our growth has been so strong. People are employed. Our labor market, we've seen a surge of people coming into the labor force, which is greater now than where we were even pre-pandemic. Unemployment now has been below 4% for 2 years, which is, we haven't seen that kind of performance for 50 years. And it's also the case that inflation is down, and that is so important for American families. That said, obviously, we are very focused on the fact that people still feel it. They still are very worried about those high prices. Have they come back down all the way? Gas prices are actually down to below 3 in most of the areas that you are in. And we are actually seeing things like a gallon of milk and a dozen eggs coming down, but it's not enough. And healthcare and housing are two of the big ones where we just need to keep plugging away. We've got some really good legislation on prescription drugs that's resulting in things like $35 a month insulin rather than $400, which was a lot for many families. And we're just going to keep plugging away at housing, healthcare, other costs. But in terms of the president's agenda, As Mayor Keller was just noting, the president is very focused on communities where actual investments take place. And so all of his major pieces of legislation have that kind of focus on making sure investments are getting everywhere across the country. So if you look at the early rescue plan funds, he gave a lot of money to the discretion of mayors and local officials to choose what mattered most for their communities, and we've gotten a lot of positive feedback on that. And often when we visit local communities, we'll find that a local mayor decided that it was the firehouse or fire training or the police that needed money. So it's really very focused on local needs, knowing that mayors are much more likely to know how to allocate that funds. Similarly, we've got a very substantial amount of investment funding going into revitalizing lead pipes for safe drinking water, making sure every single school and library and small business can get access to high-speed internet. So those investments are going all across the country right now, roads and bridges, and rail and airports. All of those things that we saw breaking down during the pandemic, we've got a lot of funding now, as well as on areas like environmental remediation, which is going to be so important, and resilience, which is going to be so important. And then, as Mayor Keller was noting, even within our big investing in America sectors like semiconductors, and in particular in the clean energy space, those tax credits have special benefits for communities that were left behind because perhaps they were energy communities or they are now distressed or low-income communities. So the tax credits themselves give extra benefits. So you can get a subsidy of about 50% if you invest in the right area. And these are private sector investments, so they're building for the long term. They are employing workforces. And those are going to be long-term sustaining investments. So, with direct pay, we've tried to make it so that mayors and local municipalities can actually take advantage of those credits themselves. And we've got a variety of programs that are pretty exciting, that are more based on sort of competitions, whether it be recompete, to try to look at distressed areas and respond to local plans to revitalize them. My colleague here from the EDA administers a lot of those really important plans. Or tech hubs, where we're building innovation centers, but really building on local efforts. So we've got a variety of place-based special programs, and we're particularly excited about that. So with that, why don't I stop, and happy to hear from everyone and respond to questions.
Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate each of those programs, and I just want to also echo how wonderful it's been when the cities can control what happens with those dollars, which is also a plug in the future to try and do that. I know sometimes other politicians, like governors, get the money. I just want everyone in the White House to note an obvious stance by the Conference of Mayors, which is that we appreciate direct federal funding. All right, that carries unanimously.